Let's be clear, your life is filled with things that simply do not serve you, that hold you back and steal your energy. But have you ever asked yourself why you keep carrying these things? Sometimes the greatest act of rebellion is not making noise, but eliminating in silence everything that does not add value to your life. Toxic relationships, self-destructive habits gone. And no, you do not need to make a spectacle of it, nor wait for anyone's approval. In today's video, I will teach you to follow the advice of Stoic philosophy. Let go of what you cannot control and free yourself, because, my friend, life is too short to remain trapped by other people's expectations. I will show you step by step how to eliminate 8 things that are undoubtedly turning your life into chaos, not just physical chaos, but mental chaos as well. These things are destroying you before you even realize it, and if you do not act, you may lose something even more important, your peace. That is why you must start today in silence and without excuses. In the end, what you leave behind says more about you than what you try to hold on to. Are you ready to start truly living? But before we begin, pay attention to this story that will help you understand the wisdom contained in this material. In a small coastal village lived a young fisherman named Marcus. He was known for his ability to navigate the most turbulent waters and for his incredible skill in fishing on the most difficult days. However, over the years, Marcus accumulated a large quantity of broken nets and tools that he no longer used, but out of pure habit he kept them. Every time he set out to sea, the space in his small boat was filled with things that hindered his work. One day, while preparing for a long journey on the ocean, a strong storm formed. The waves battered his boat, and he realized that the excess of things he was carrying greatly hindered his ability to maneuver. For hours he fought against the storm, but he felt that it was not just the waves that were his enemy, but rather the unnecessary cargo he carried. On the verge of despair, Marcus made a difficult but necessary decision. He began to get rid of what did not serve him. First, he threw overboard the broken nets, then the old worn-out ropes, and finally even some objects he kept out of attachment but that were not useful. With each thing he let go, his boat became lighter and he could maneuver better. The waves continued strong, but Marcus no longer felt trapped by the weight of the past. Thanks to that attitude, he managed to stay afloat, and finally, when the storm passed, he returned to port. He was exhausted but safe. When his fellow fishermen saw him return, they asked how he had survived the storm. Marcus, with a calm smile, replied, "There are moments in life when we hold on to things we do not need, objects, memories, or people that only add weight to our journey. Only when we decide to let go of the unnecessary in silence and without drama do we find the freedom to move forward with ease." The moral of this story is that in life, there are many things we need to eliminate in silence to move forward. Sometimes the load we carry prevents us from navigating with lightness, and only by releasing that weight can we discover our true path. Before we begin with the first lesson, if you find this type of video useful, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to stay updated with new content. Let's begin. 1. Fear of other people's opinions. Have you ever asked yourself how many decisions in your life were made out of fear of what others might think? This fear that seeps under your skin, that prevents you from being yourself, is like living on a continuous stage under the critical gaze of an audience that in reality is not even paying attention to you. You know why? Because most of the time people are too busy dealing with their own insecurities to judge you. Yet you paralyze yourself. The fear of others' judgment is like a silent parasite that feeds on your dreams. It clings to your back and whispers in your ear every time you think about doing something different or daring. What will others think? And suddenly, you change direction, adapting your life to what you believe others expect from you. What irony! We spend so much time worried about other people's opinions that without realizing it, we stop living the life we truly want. This fear pushes us to please people who often are not even part of our real life. It is as if our compass were misaligned. Instead of following the north of our intuition, we follow the south dictated by society. You wear the mask that best fits the expectations of the moment, at work, with friends, even on social media. But what about the real you? The one hidden under layers of false smiles and borrowed opinions. Sometimes the fear of what they will say is even more subtle. It disguises itself as prudence. It's not the right time. Maybe I'm not good enough. Excuses masked as wisdom that deep down hide the same monster, the fear of others' judgment. And meanwhile, dreams remain filed away, waiting for a better moment that never comes. To eliminate this fear once and for all, we need to practice Stoic philosophy. The Stoics teach that we cannot control what others think of us, but we can control how we react to it. It seems simple, but it is not. It requires constant exercise in introspection and courage. It is about learning to live for yourself, to make decisions that make you happy, and not just to please others. Life is too short to be lived under the shadow of others' opinions. A good exercise is to start eliminating in silence things that do not bring value to your life, those that are only there to please others. Do you feel obligated to maintain a certain image? Did you choose a career that does not satisfy you because it seemed like the right choice? Free yourself from these chains. Start with small decisions. Say no to commitments you do not want to assume. Do something you always wanted but were afraid to do because of what others might. Think each small action will be a step toward freedom. I will not lie. It is not easy. There will be days when the weight of others' judgment seems crushing. But in those moments, remember, every time you choose to live according to what others think, you lose a piece of what you really are. It is a kind of slow, silent death that you can avoid if you have the courage to be true to yourself. So start eliminating these things in silence. You do not need to announce it to the world. Just let go of what is not yours, what does not belong to your essence. Learn to trust your own judgment and to value more what you think of yourself than what others may think. Because at the end of the day, the only person you owe explanations to is yourself. As Carl Jung said, freedom begins the moment you stop worrying about what others think of you. 2. Toxic relationships. There is a phrase I love. There is no worse blind person than the one who does not want to see. I am sure you have heard it right. Curiously, we often apply this selective blindness to our own relationships. We get used to dealing with people who somehow take more from us than they give. Yes, I am talking about those toxic relationships that, without you realizing it, drain your energy little by little. And what is most curious, many times you cling to them as if they were indispensable. I am not referring only to romantic relationships. Toxic relationships can be anywhere, in family and friend groups, at work. And what is most interesting is that no one forces you to maintain them, but there you are, tolerating in silence, as if letting go were an affront to the world. Why do we do this? Perhaps because we were taught that breaking ties is a sign of weakness or insensitivity, as if eliminating someone from your life were an act of cruelty, when in reality it can be the greatest gesture of self-love you can perform. Let us bring a little philosophy into this conversation. The Stoics teach us that we should not worry about what we cannot control. This also applies to the people around us. You cannot control how others act, but you can control whether or not you want to keep them in your life. It sounds simple, but here is the difficult part: doing it in silence. And do not misunderstand me. It is not about silent revenge or feeling superior. It is simply a conscious decision not to feed a relationship that wears you out anymore. Think about it. You do not need drama to eliminate what does not serve you. It is not necessary to announce to the four winds that you are detoxing from people. Just let go. It is like stopping watering a plant that no longer blooms. You do it calmly, knowing it is no longer part of your garden. And that is okay. The plant follows its path. You follow yours and life goes on. Has it ever happened to you that you spend time with someone, even someone close, and you leave that interaction completely exhausted? It is not that this person is bad, but their energy does not match yours. That is where the key comes in, detecting these relationships. Listen to your body, your mind. If you feel that each interaction with a certain person is a true emotional marathon, perhaps you are in a toxic relationship. It can be painful to admit, but it is necessary. Here comes the strategy of silence. Gradually reduce interactions. Stop seeking contact. Distance yourself. No big gestures or fights are necessary. Just stop being available. It is liberating. Believe me, not because you are turning your back on the world, but because you are prioritizing your well-being. Sometimes, self-love is not saying no out loud, but saying enough in silence. So how do you identify these relationships? It is simple. If every time you see a message from this person, you feel a knot in your stomach. If going out with them leaves you more exhausted than a whole week of work. If you realize that it is always you who gives and never receives, you already have your answer. When that becomes clear, start the elimination process. Without drama, without unnecessary explanations. Just move forward. Conclusion. It is not about being cruel or holding grudges. It is about respecting yourself enough not to allow them to continue draining the energy you could use with people and activities that truly nourish you. In the end, the key is being honest with yourself and placing your well-being above guilt or fear of hurting others. Keep this clearly, my friend. Some people are like the wind. You feel them, but you cannot hold on to them. You just need to let them pass. 3. Self-destructive habits. Sometimes you catch yourself doing small things that, if you look closely, you know are not taking you anywhere. They are those actions that seem harmless at first, but without realizing it, gradually wear down your mental or physical peace. I, too, have fallen into that trap more times than I would like to admit. Small, self-destructive habits that go unnoticed, like a constant drip that over time wears down even rock. But what happens if those habits are the rocks of our daily life? How do we eliminate them without making a scene? First, you need to recognize them, and that is the trick. Pointing out what bothers us in others is one thing, but identifying it in ourselves is different. You get up in the morning and without thinking, you grab your phone. Not for something important, of course, but out of pure habit, as if your finger were programmed to swipe the screen before your brain has even woken up. It seems harmless, right? Until you realize you have lost 20 minutes of your morning, immersed in nothing, with your mind already saturated before even getting out of bed. This is just one example. We do this with so many other things. That extra coffee that was not necessary. That conversation you knew you should not have had. That series that does not add anything to you, but you keep watching out of inertia. These are the small things that over time can create a big hole in your well-being. Now, eliminating these habits is another story. Let us be honest. How many times have you promised to leave something behind and ended up doing it even more? Like when you say, starting tomorrow, I will really begin, and then tomorrow arrives and it is just another day of excuses. That is where Stoic mentality comes in. Those philosophers from ancient Rome believed that great transformations do not happen all at once, but in small, silent, almost imperceptible steps. You do not need to shout to the world that you are going to change, nor make a grand gesture. You just need to start observing. The key is in awareness. When you realize your hand is reaching for your phone for no reason, stop. You do not need to throw your phone out the window, although that might be cathartic. Just set it aside and do something else. Something as simple as taking a deep breath and stretching. When you feel the urge to have that third cup of coffee, ask yourself, do I really need this? or is it just habit? If it is just inertia, leave the cup. Sometimes it is as simple as that. Stopping at the right moment, without drama, without the need for monumental changes. Eliminating self-destructive habits does not mean you will become a perfect person overnight. We all have our small internal battles, and that is okay. The question is to approach them with a simple strategy: silence and consistency, like a drop that instead of wearing down polishes gradually. And if someday you feel you are not making progress, remember this: what today seems like a small effort, over time transforms into a great victory. Perhaps you will not notice the results immediately, but it is like planting a seed. One day, without warning, it grows and becomes a tree. The same happens with these small adjustments. So the next time you identify a habit that hurts you more than it helps you, eliminate it in silence. You do not need to announce it or make a big show. Just let it go, step by step, drop by drop. As Epictetus said, true change does not make noise. It simply happens. 4. The desire to control everything. Have you ever felt that if you do not have absolute control over everything around you, the world will collapse? Stay calm. I understand. We like to believe that if we organize every detail to the millimeter and prevent all unforeseen events, life will be like a perfectly adjusted machine where nothing can go wrong. What an absurd idea, right? But even so, we find ourselves trapped in this mental game, convinced we can master everything that happens to us. It is a trap, a mirage. And the worst part is that the more we try to hold on to control, the more we feel we lose balance. That is why I ask you, what if you let go of this obsessive need for control? You know, this compulsion to want everything to be exactly as we imagine. The desire to control everything is nothing more than a mental prison. 1. We build brick by brick. Each time we believe that with enough effort things will turn out exactly as planned. But you know what happens? The universe does not work that way. Stoic philosophy, with its millennial wisdom that remains so current, teaches us that the key is not in controlling what we cannot, but in releasing the unnecessary and focusing on what truly depends on us. Think about it. We try to control the weather, other people's opinions, people's reactions, the results of our efforts. Everything that is actually not in our hands. It is like trying to hold back the tide with your hands, a complete waste of energy. Yet we do it constantly. And the worst part, every time something does not go as we expected, we get frustrated, we get angry, as if it were a cosmic injustice. What irony, right? Imagine you carry a backpack. Each time you try to control something outside your reach, you put a stone inside it. At first, you may not even feel the weight, but over time, the backpack becomes unbearably heavy. In the end, that load crushes you. Would it not be better to get rid of those stones? To open space for what truly matters, for what you can really control? Your emotions, your actions, your choices. The rest, let go. For a long time, I myself worried obsessively about predicting everything that could go wrong in my life. If I had a meeting, I would plan every possible uncomfortable question. If I scheduled an outing with friends, I worried about the place, the weather, anything that could go off plan. It was exhausting. And you know what happened? Most of the things I worried about never happened. In the end, I realized that this attempt to predict everything did not give me more control. It only gave me more anxiety. So I started letting go. Little by little, I learned to trust the process more. And what happened? Things kept happening, some good, others not so much, but I felt lighter because I had stopped carrying what was not my responsibility. Trusting in life does not mean being passive or irresponsible. It is about accepting with maturity that there are things outside our hands, and that is okay. Eliminate in silence this need to control everything. Give space to the unexpected, to surprises, to what is beyond your reach. This does not mean you should just settle down. and watch life pass by. It is about releasing the weight and accepting that there is a part of the path that does not depend on you, and you know what else. It is liberating. Remember, sometimes letting go is the most powerful form of taking control. As Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, true control lies in the capacity to release the uncontrollable 5 unrealistic expectations. I do not know about you, but I spent a good part of my life believing I needed to be perfect. Nobody told me that directly, but it was in the air, hovering between well-intentioned comments, approving looks, and that constant silent comparison with others. I grew up with the firm conviction that meeting others' expectations, and worse still my own, was synonymous with success. What a big lie. If you stop to think, trying to fulfill unrealistic expectations is like trying to fill a bottomless well with a leaky bucket. You never finish. You are always exhausted. And in the end, all that remains is a sad puddle of frustration at your feet. What is most curious, many of these expectations are not even ours. They were built by others, family, friends, society, and we accepted them. Because in the quest to be better, we decided we needed to fulfill them. Do a quick exercise. How many times have you felt disappointed for not achieving something you did not even really want? Well, there it is. We impose goals so high on ourselves that if we fail, we feel useless. If I am not the best at my job, the perfect partner, the ideal friend, the exemplary child, what is left of me? In the end, these expectations end up weighing more than our own actions. It is like running a marathon with a backpack full of stones. You move forward slower, you tire sooner, and even if you reach the end, you feel you did it dragging your feet. What is the point? This is where Stoic philosophy comes in with a brilliant insight about this. According to the Stoics, you cannot control what others think of you, nor guarantee that the universe will act in your favor. What you can control is how you react to it. The key, then, is to reduce the load, lower those expectations that suffocate you. If you expect less from yourself and others, it does not mean you are settling. It means you are freeing yourself. You are no longer trapped by the constant pressure to correspond to the impossible. You are simply existing and moving forward. Of course, this magic does not happen overnight. I am not telling you to throw all your expectations out the window at once. Think of it like cleaning a closet full of old clothes. First, look at what does not fit you anymore, what you never really liked, and gradually get rid of it, one piece at a time. Sometimes you hesitate to let go of a shirt because you think you will use it someday, but deep down, you know you will not. With expectations, it is the same. Start by eliminating those that do not belong to you. Then review your own and ask yourself, are they realistic? You do not need to keep all of them. Something that can help reduce expectations without creating drama is to change the way you talk to yourself. For example, instead of saying, I need to do everything perfectly, try, I will do the best I can with what I have now. It seems simple, but it is liberating. You open space for error, which is human, and for the possibility of improving without constant pressure. Another foolproof trick: avoid telling your plans to everyone. The less noise you make, the fewer expectations others create about what you should achieve. After all, external expectations are just that noise. Eliminate in silence what does not add to you. You will notice that things start to flow much more naturally. Letting go of expectations is not giving up. It is an act of wisdom. Instead of focusing on what you should do or be, concentrate on what you really want and what is under your control. Less expectations, more freedom. Engrave that in your mind, my friend. The less you expect, the lighter you become. 6. The need to always be right. Have you noticed you have a compulsion, an obsessive need to always be right, to be the person who knows everything? It is as if every conversation were a battlefield, and victory meant proving you are right. A silent but relentless war. The worst part, This war is not with others, but with yourself. Each time you insist on having the last word, it is as if you needed to convince yourself that your value depends on it. Does it not tire you? Because honestly, I am already exhausted from this endless race. We were taught to believe we always need to have the right answer, as if being wrong were synonymous with weakness. Society, social media, and even family gatherings reinforce the idea that failing is failing. But I will tell you a secret. Sometimes being right is the least important thing in life. Stoic philosophy teaches us to accept what we cannot control. And you know what? You cannot control other people's perception of you. This endless parade to prove you know everything leads nowhere. It only leaves you more anxious, more frustrated, and at the end of the day, lonelier. Ask yourself, what do I gain by always being right? An invisible medal. It does not seem worth the effort, does it? It is like carrying a suitcase full of unnecessary stones. With each argument or imposed opinion, you put another stone in there until the weight becomes unbearable and you wonder why you are so exhausted. The answer is simple. You are wearing yourself out over something that has no real value. The next time you feel that urge to demonstrate you are right, try staying silent. Not out of resignation, but out of liberation. It is like letting go of a pen you have been holding for hours without realizing it. When you let go, you feel a relief you did not know you needed. With the need to always be right, the same thing happens. When you release that load, you realize you were trapped in a war you did not even want to fight. So how do you release this need? Accept that you do not need to know everything. It is okay to be wrong. It is okay not to have a formed opinion about everything. You are not competing in a wisdom contest. Learn to truly listen, not to refute, but to understand. There is a huge difference between hearing and listening. Hearing is a biological function. Listening is an art. When you listen with attention, the anxiety to go or impose your point of view disappears. Appreciate silence. Sometimes the best argument is simply allowing others to have the last word. Not every conversation needs a winner, because in the end, winning an argument is not the same as having peace. Is it worth always being right at the expense of your tranquility? Not really. The next time you are in a conversation and feel that urge to correct or impose your opinion, take a deep breath. Let go, let it go. The peace you will feel will be infinitely more valuable than any momentary victory if it serves as consolation. Remember the Stoics. They knew that true wisdom is not in being right, but in knowing when to let go. As Seneca said, true knowledge is not in winning all battles, but in knowing when not to fight. 7 Digital noise. Have you noticed how you are surrounded by digital noise? I am not talking just about cars on the street or the neighbor drilling the wall, but about that other noise. The one in your pocket, in your hands, in your eyes. Social media, endless notifications, messages that do not stop arriving. It seems everything is designed to distract you, to keep you in a constant state of alert. And there you are thinking you have control when in reality, it is digital chaos that controls you. The reality is, we live in an era where silence is a luxury. But that luxury is not as unattainable as it seems. The first step is to understand what is really stealing your attention, because in truth, there are things you should eliminate in silence from your life. And yes, it is possible, only it is not as obvious. I will be honest, digital chaos does not disappear just because you close an app. That would be like trying to put out a fire with a glass of water. What you need is to be radical, like the Stoics, who knew that inner peace was what truly mattered, and they did not achieve it by allowing themselves to be carried away by external distractions. So what should you eliminate in silence from your life? Let us go. First, social media. Yes, I know it seems cliché, but believe me, the more accounts you follow, the more noise you create. I am not saying to disconnect completely, but think, do you really need to know what your friend's sister's cousin is doing? Eliminate without mercy. everything that does not add to you. And if you can do a digital cleanse from time to time, like someone organizing a closet, take out what no longer fits, what should never have been there in the first place. Second, notifications. Here, things get interesting. Why do you allow your phone to interrupt you every 2 minutes? Each time it vibrates or emits a sound, your brain jumps. This does not just steal your time, but also your mental energy. Turn off all non-essential notifications. At first, you may feel a certain anxiety as if you were missing something, but later, when you realize how good it is to have control over when and how you check your phone, you will thank me. Third, fear of missing out. The great modern villain, FOMO. We live with the sensation that if we are not connected, we will miss something important. But here is an uncomfortable truth. What truly matters is not on the screen. It is around you, in people, in moments that pass unnoticed while you are trapped in the latest viral meme. Eliminate that fear. Let go of the need to be in everything, because the more you try to embrace the digital world, the more you lose what is truly worthwhile. Once you get rid of that unnecessary noise, something magical happens. You start to hear what truly matters. Digital silence is the first step to reconnecting with yourself, with your ideas, with your true priorities. This is where Stoic philosophy comes into play. You cannot control what happens outside you, but you can decide how you react to it. When you eliminate digital noise, everything else becomes clearer. My advice is this: choose silence. Not as an absence of noise, but as a conscious presence of what you truly want in your life. Because in the end, that is the true luxury of our era. As Gandhi said, peace does not come when noise fades, but when you decide to listen to yourself. 8. Negative thoughts. Have you stopped to notice how negative thoughts enter your mind almost without making noise, like someone who wants nothing? They appear and suddenly they are in command of everything. They are like those neighbors who arrive without warning, and worse, do not leave. The most frustrating part: many times you hand them the key, not because you want to, but because they convinced you their presence is inevitable, a part of your daily life. But what if I told you that you can change the lock? Let us speak clearly. These thoughts are nothing more than destructive patterns that end up shaping your actions, and not in the best way, for sure. You have already caught yourself thinking things like, why does everything go wrong for me? Or I will never make it. And of course, when these thoughts repeat over and over, you end up believing them. And what you believe, you end up acting on. It is like planting a poisoned tree and then wondering why the fruits are not edible. What is curious is that these negative thoughts do not necessarily reflect reality, but they feel as real as the ground you walk on. This is where Stoic philosophy comes in with its brutal simplicity. You cannot control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond. It seems so simple, but in practice, it is something we frequently miss. We allow these mental patterns to dictate our emotions and actions, when true freedom is in taking the reins of our responses. And where do you start? The first key is silence. Yes, you read that right. Eliminate in silence these negative thoughts. You do not need to make a spectacle trying to push them away. Just start recognizing when they appear, identify them, and do not feed them. The more attention you give them, the more power they have. Think of it like a fly in the room. If you obsess over catching it, you will only agitate it more. What if you just ignored it until it tired of flying? Second, question your thoughts. When a destructive thought arises, ask yourself, is this true? Is everything really going wrong? Or is it just an exaggerated perception? Often you will realize they are inflated ideas with no real basis. And if there is some truth, you can start thinking about solutions instead of staying stuck in the problem. Third, detachment. I am not saying you should become a monk on top of a mountain, but start taking emotional distance from your thoughts. They are not you. Just because something passes through your head does not mean it needs to stay there. This requires practice, but little by little, you will learn to see them for what they really are. Clouds in a sky that remains firm. Negative thoughts are one of those small things you should eliminate in silence from your life. They do not need fanfare, just careful focus, patience, and internal questioning. Because at the end of the day, what you think shapes what you do, and what you do defines who you are. As Brian Tracy said, thoughts are not facts, but if you believe them, they become your reality. Conclusion: a life of intentional simplicity. We have journeyed through 8 powerful elements that the Stoics would eliminate in silence from their lives to find peace, clarity, and purpose. These are not complicated strategies, but they require consistency, discipline, and commitment. Fear of others' opinions, toxic relationships, self-destructive habits, the desire to control everything, unrealistic expectations, the need to always be right, digital noise, and negative thoughts. Each of these things weighs us down, prevents us from living fully, and steals our energy. Start with 1 or 2, practice eliminating them in silence, and over time, you will notice a profound shift in how you see yourself in the world. You will no longer be controlled by these forces. Instead, you will move through life with intention, purpose, and inner peace. Remember, the Stoics did not seek to eliminate all difficulty or uncertainty. They sought to build the inner strength to face it with wisdom, and that is exactly what these practices will help you do. Thank you for watching. If this video helped you, please leave a comment with the phrase "I am free." Subscribe to the channel and share this wisdom with someone who needs it. Until next time, stay strong, stay stoic, and keep growing.